everybody, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today what I'm going to run through you with is the modification of the new resistors here for the Wilson Alexias. So I'm set up down here in the where my workbench is, and I'm going to go through and explain to you the process that needs to happen with these 4-leg resistors, and the process we go through basically to get them ready to be installed into the Wilsons. So it'll be a series of little videos that I'll tack together as one stream of videos, if you like, and it'll be the explanation of what we modify here, that process, and then the wiring in of these resistors into the back of the Wilson Alexias. So stay tuned for that. We'll get straight into it with I'll show you what I've already modified, just so that you can see, because I'm only going to do for the video, just so that we're not not here all day. There's 6 resistors here. Now I've already done the first part of the modification of 4 of the 6. So I have a 2 ohm one here and a 2.5 ohm one here, which I haven't done yet. But essentially what I've done, if I show you up close, is I've removed the 2 middle legs away from the resistor. As you can see, I've folded them up, and hopefully this is all clear. I've folded them up and I've snipped them off so that they essentially sit flush with the top. There's a tiny little bit sitting up there, but very, very little. But we have essentially turned the 4-leg resistors into 2 legs. So I'm going to show you the next 2, and I'll do them and show you how I've done that process, and then we'll move on to the next part of what we're going to do next. Okay, so here we have the 2.5 ohm resistor. It obviously, as you can see, has its 4 legs on it. So what you need for this exercise is a little flat-bladed screwdriver like this, and a pair of side cutters. Just with my finger, I'll just very carefully bend the first 2 posts. As you can see that I've bent them forward a little bit, which might be a better way of doing it. And then with the screwdriver, and hopefully so all this is clear to see, I then bend them up and flatten them out like that. So essentially what you have is that kind of arrangement there. So again, there's the top of the resistor, and there we have the middle 2 legs facing directly straight up. If you can see the writing on the top of the resistor. So the next thing we do is we get a pair of side cutters, and we come right in very, very closely to the body of the resistor, and we just give these a little nip like that. Now, we won't go straight through them. It's quite a simple process to just then bend, and we end up with 2 legs here in one hand and a 2-legged resistor right here. So what we do then is we just get the screwdriver again, place the resistor on its very head, and just make sure by pressing down on those 2 legs that we have a nice snug fit right up against the body of the resistor, with just the tiniest little bit sitting from the top. The reason we're doing this like this is we do not want these 2 pins to short on anything at all. So keeping them, essentially like this, they can't touch on anything. They can't bend down onto the heat sink through the bottom of the resistor. We just nip them off as flush as we can with the top of the body of the resistor. And that is how we do it. So here we have the 2 ohm resistor in its little plastic. So we take the top off the plastic. Here is the resistor. Once again, 4 legs. We need the middle 2 to be gone. So with our finger, we just bend these middle 2 up just a little bit, just so we can get a start on the process, like so. You can see how that's happened. Just take your time. It's not It's not rocket science, but just take your time with it and you'll get it. And then we just bend these two legs forward so that they're against the body of the resistor like so. You can see there again, that's what we've got. And then from that point, we get the side cutters again. We come in directly up against the body of the resistor. We give them a little nip, if you like, just to bruise the posts a little bit, and then just a general little bend, and they come away fairly easily. And then from there, we just place the screwdriver back down on the flat part of the screwdriver down, just to make sure those pins are dead straight and facing up. And we have that process there, which is exactly what we need to do. So all 6 of these resistors have to be done this way. They all need this process done to them to have the middle 2 legs removed and the outside 2 legs remaining. And we'll move on now to the next part of what we need to do to make this all work for our Wilsons. Okay, so the next part of this exercise, and it's something that I guess if you are considering buying these resistors, you will have this work done for you, but it's something that I need to check to make sure that that none of these 4 legs are connected to the heatsink on the back of this resistor. Now, we're not sure about this, so it means checking with our multimeter. So we've got, as we've shown, we've got the 2 tabs in the middle which are not touching anything, and the outer 2 legs. So what we need to do is we need to check to make sure that there's no connection from this resistor to any of these 4 legs. So the way we do that is we set our multimeter here to check a signal path to see if there's a signal path, and you can see that if I touch these 2 together and create a signal path, we will see some serious movement, and then we should come back to something remotely like this. So essentially, if we put one of our probes on the back of the heatsink where it bolts into, the body of the Wilson on its heatsink, and then we touch on each of the probes very carefully, just making sure we've got a good firm contact there, and we check on each of these tabs. If we don't see very much movement at all, so maybe we should see a rather large movement, we check one of the center tabs, and again, if we're not seeing much, it's sort of 51, 52 around that number, and we check this next tab, which is the second one we knocked off, or we broke off there. Again, not much movement. And then the last tab out here, we check that, and again, we're sitting at about 52. If we take things off completely, and then we make, as I said, make a connection, you can clearly see a big number jumps when we make a connection. So that I'm quite satisfied that the heatsink on the back of this resistor here is not in any way connected to any of these 4 pins here on, this is the 2 ohm resistor. So we'll check one of the 2.5 ohm resistors, which is over here. So the same thing applies. We've got a metal backed heatsink here, and of course the 4 legs, the 2 that we've removed, and the outer 2 that we're keeping. So the same thing applies. We place it down on the ground. We get one of our probes. We touch it across the body of the back of the heatsink there, and then we touch the. Oops! When I get hold of it, lost it. We touch one of these legs here, and again we see 52. It's hardly moving. We check one of the center probes, and again we're sitting at about 52. Nothing much happening. We come away, we check the next tab here, the second one we broke off in the middle, again, very little movement at all, if any. And then we check the last tab, the one we're keeping, and again we've got no electrical connection between the heatsink on the back of this. In case one of these was an earthing post of some sort being 4 off this leg, we can decipher from this that that's not the case. And so we've checked all of the tabs on one of the 2.5s. We've got 4 of those. We've got 2 of the 2 ohm tabs. So I'm pretty satisfied with this test that we have no problem here with potentially shorting the resistor in any way, shape or form to the heatsink. Now, if that had been the case and we did have a connection off one of these tabs, then we would have to put a little gel insulator on the back of this that is which is conductive, so that we literally insulate the resistor from the heatsink at the back of the Wilson. But as that's not the case, this can be bolted directly onto the back of the heatsink of the Wilson in the back of the speaker, and I'll show you all of that when we do it, without any issue whatsoever. So essentially that process is the same as what you would do with your normal Wilson resistors. But this, having a 4-leg process, we needed to confirm that none of these 4 legs was connected to the heatsink here on the back. And with these tests, we can confirm that that is not the case. Okay, so the next process that we need to do is we need to extend the legs on these resistors. So for them to meet the binding posts on the back of the Wilsons, we need to, if you like, extend the length here. These are a little too short for the Wilsons, so our next process is to extend these. Now, the best thing to use to extend these are the 2 offcuts that we took from the middle 2 legs here. So I'm not sure if you can see them, they're very tiny, but there they are, the 2 legs I've saved all of these. They're all sitting in their little plastic containers that the resistors came in. And what we're going to do now is we're going to extend these legs by essentially soldering or soldering, depending on where you are in the world. These 2 legs that we've discarded from the center, we're going to extend them on the outside. So that is our next process. Okay, so now we're at the process of extending these legs. So what I do is I'll use a little bit of masking tape here, just to hold the resistor, which is sitting on a wooden block here. So I've got it sitting there in a nice position. And then I just want to put a piece of masking tape down on here, just to hold the resistor so it's just not going to move. So you can see that we've got a nice secure fit. It's stuck down quite nicely to that piece of timber. So the next thing we need to do is we need to put some solder, or solder where I come from, onto the end of the areas to which that we're attaching. So I'll just get my soldering station cleaned up, ready to go. First thing we need to do is put a little bit of high purity silver solder here on the end of the leg that we are going to solder onto, and then, which I find is just easier to then pick up the leg like so with the multi-grips. Now we're using, as I said, the wider part, and we just want to slide that underneath very carefully so that it literally sits there in line. We get our soldering probe and we heat these 2 things up like so. Blow on a little bit until it dries, and then voila, we have, if I can take that off, 1 leg completed. So that looks perfect. So the next process is to get our second probe. So I'll pick that up with the multi-grips like so. Although before I do that, let's again prime the end of the leg. As you can see, that looks nice and primed and ready to go. Same thing applies again. We pick the multi grips up, the pointy nose pliers up with the wider part that we broke off of the probe, line it up underneath the leg, and then just heat through like so. Blow on it a couple of times, and once again, there we have it. So if we remove the tape, we've got all of a sudden a much nicer looking extended tweeter resistor, which will quite comfortably now fit in the binding posts of the Wilson and behave perfectly. So that's the process there. I'll do the other one off camera, and then I'll show you what happens next with the mid-range, which we need to put 2 in series. So I'll explain that one. There's a little bit more to do on that one, which is a little trickier, but again, step by step. That's why I'm doing these videos, so that you can literally stop if you're doing this, pause it, follow what I'm doing, and then move on to the next stage. So the next one coming soon. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So here we are at the back of the Wilson, where you can see the mid-range in-series Wilson resistors, and over here the tweeter in-series resistors for the tweeter. So what I've done is, as you've seen before, is here is one of our newly set up mid-range resistors. Now, I'm not sure, let's see if we can bring the camera in here and I can show you that you can see here that there are 3 mounting points on the heatsink for the resistors. So that is really quite handy for us, because what I have done is very carefully, I have spread the resistor apart a little bit here, so that I can literally line that resistor, the middle hole where the resistor is coming out, and the above hole will be the 2 mounting points for our resistors this way. So then, of course, what we need to do is line the wiring up. So we've got one of the legs, I'm not sure if this is easy to see, but I've got one of the legs, as you can see, straight, because that'll pick up the top binding post. And then the bottom, I'll show this, the bottom leg is pointing down, because we need that to catch the bottom binding post. So that one's a bit sort of tricky in a way that you'll just have to try and line them up and work out exactly where the right spot to go is with them. But so we'll place it up there. The tweeter is obviously quite a bit different, because we've got 2 legs. I've bent them apart, as you can see there. So they'll pick the center tab up on one side of the heatsink, be bolted back in and pick up, and this one we take out. This side we don't need, we won't be using it. So tools you'll need for this job is you'll need a 1/2-inch socket, and what that will do is that will undo the binding post here for the resistors. So we just loosen those up, as you can see, like this. And then we need a 332's Allen head or Allen wrench, and then we just place that in there, like so, and release, they're hard, release the bolts that hold the resistor in on the heatsink. So we remove that little screw and place it up on top of the speaker there. Then we'll do this one. We've broken the tension. So release that screw like so and place it up the top there so we don't lose anything. And then it should just be a matter of sliding the resistors. If you've got sliding your existing resistors, these are the Wilson ones, away from the heat sinks that they are attached to. So we'll place those up the top there out of the way, And then again, this gives you a clearer picture now of the 3 mounting points that Wilson give you on the back of their heat sinks. So that is usually, well, it's quite advantageous for us over here on the mid-range, but on the tweeter, we'll be still utilising the middle hole. So let's place this back here. See if we can slide this around a bit more so you can see a bit better. So we take our new resistor, we take one of our bolts, place it through the resistor like so, and then we just get our Allen key, which is here, put it through actually what we might do to make this a bit easier, so reverse that, strike it, and let's just place this resistor into, I might need to put my glasses on for this job. So we'll back these. There's 2 holes in the binding posts here for the legs to go into. So they don't just sandwich up against there; they actually go through the holes. So once we have those running through, and that's just a little bit of lining up, and there we go. We can just tighten the binding posts up just ever so slightly. We don't want it tight yet. We just want to be able to still move the resistor around in such a way as to line it up with the hole that we're going to then secure it back onto the heatsink with. So if we do that, and we place this bolt in here like so, and we do this bolt up. So let's just leave everything relatively loose at this point, just so that, you know, everything's so moving around. Now we can actually, I can see quite clearly that the legs have gone through. Let me just confirm. Oh no, they haven't actually. So again, we'll just before we've tightened anything up, we'll just loosen things off once again, because we didn't get that right. But this is live, so you're seeing it as it happens, as it were. So what we need to do is get that. We need to line those legs up so that they go into their mounting, the holes of the binding posts. That's what we're looking to do here. And once we know we're through, and I'm happy that we are. Just confirm this one. This one's the top one's the one that's being a bit of a pain in the bottom. So if we take that out, we can see that we're through. So actually, that's not a bad idea. If we take these binding posts, the screws, the brass sections off, that might be a bit easier. You can actually see now that we are through there. So we'll get a bolt without dropping it that came out using the existing ones, and we'll just mount that in place like so. Again, just tighten it up lightly. We can see that I can clearly see that the mounting points are through. So I will, now that I can see that, I'll nip that up so that it's nice and tight on there. Then I will place the threads back on the binding post there, and we'll just nip those up ever so gently like so. Then get hold of our 1/2 inch and just tighten them up. They just need to be snug, firm, without being crazy tight. And as you can see there, we are in place. We are lined up, we are secured, and everything is in place. So that is the tweeter resistor in place, done. So we do nothing on this side. We're only using one resistor this time round for the tweeter, and there it is in place. So we'll do the mid-range next. Okay, so these are the 2.5 ohm resistors and we need to do something a little more interesting with these. We're going to wire these in series, so 2 side by side like this. So what we need to do is the 2 middle posts here that you can see, we are going to solder those together. So I'll show you how I intend to do that. It's a process of getting the side cutters on the narrowest part of the leg, and just giving that a little nip like so, and removing it. So you can see now that we have an arrangement that looks like that. So making sure that we keep we keep them both together so we know what we're doing. We want the inside leg on this one now to be the same process. So side cutters where the you can see where the tab becomes narrower. At that point, that's where we want to do the nip and take that away. So again, we just give it a little score it, and then it just comes away quite easily. So now what we're left with is something, when it's held together, that looks like that. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get our side cutters and our pointy nose pliers, and we just want to hang on to that tab, and we just want to bend it out a little bit. If we can't do it with the side cutters, which is proving to be a bit difficult, we're going to do it with your hand, but very, very gently. Just bend that tab outward so that you have them both together here, so you know what you're doing. Same thing with the other one. We have the narrow tab now. We're going to hang on to that. We're going to bend it if we can. Pointy nose pliers, whatever we can use to do this with. And we're just going to bend that out ever so slightly again like that. So then we put these two together like so. We line them up so that they're nice and correctly aligned. There's a reason for that a bit later on. We have something that looks like that, so that we have a crossover point. So we might want to bend one of the tabs that we've just cut down up a little bit and the other one down a little bit, so that we get this if you like, this quite easy to put together arrangement. So from there, we will place our tape back across the resistors, the two of them, so that we hold them down snugly like so. So now you can see that they're not going to move, that they're in position and locked down on the piece of timber that we're working on. And then we simply get some of our high purity silver solder and we attach these two items together like so. So then we have that kind of arrangement. As you can see, it is they are affixed beautifully, and then we have the two outer legs on both of these resistors. So that is stage one with the with this process. Now the next thing we need to do is extend these legs here, like we did with the tweeter resistors. So I'll go ahead and do that. It's just the same process. So we get hold of two of our legs here. Just put them out onto the timber, and we spin them around so we grab the narrowest edge of these. We will get a little bit of solder and we will prime the outer leg here, and the same thing applies here. We'll prime the outer leg so that we've done that. Just clean the tip of the soldering iron here on my sponge. Then we pick up our leg again, as we did on the tweeter, holding the wider part. We then line line this process up like so. I'm trying to do this so that I don't obstruct anything from the camera here. We bring that up from underneath like so, and then with the soldering iron we just marry these two pieces together. Wait a second, and then there we have it. So there's one of them, one leg done, extended out. So what we'll do is get hold of the other one here, like so. We will place it underneath and line it up like this. Get our soldering iron out, heat these two up, just give it a second to catch, and there we have it. So that is what we're looking for. So if we take this away now like so, take these off, this is what we have. We have these two lined up perfectly. We have the inner two legs attached, and we have the outer two legs like so, also extended and ready to go into the Wilson. So that is what we need to do with the mid-range resistors for the Wilson Alexias. So I'll complete the other one of these off camera, and then we'll move to the installation of these resistors into the back of the Wilsons. Okay, so I've cut a little bit of the stuff that we did with the tweeter one out, just to show you now how I've set up the mid-range. So you can see there that we have the two resistors in series. We've used the top hole and we've used the middle hole of the heatsink on one side. We've got the leg wires going through the binding posts there, so I can confirm that they're through the holes in the binding posts. And I've left everything loose so that you can see that's just how it's sitting there. If we place that back there, and I'll bring this camera in a bit closer so that you guys can see what happens next. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tighten up these bolts. Just wind them in gently till we make connection there, as we have there and there. So then we'll just get hold of a bit more leverage and make sure that we've got them nipped up nice and tight and securely, as they now are. There's a nice little gap between them that I can see there. Let's see if you guys can pick that up. So I'm really happy with how that looks. And then the last thing we really need to do here now is just put our screw down on our binding posts, these sections here. We just get a nice little nip there like that by hand, and then it's just a matter of our 1/2 inch. A nice tight fit there. Same thing applies here. Let's check them again, make sure they're nice and tight, and they are. And voila, there we go. We are in place, in series. We have everything the way we want it to be. We've got good, clean connections everywhere, and that is exactly what we need to do with the brand new Visray top of the range resistors into the back of the Wilsons. So we've got one extra screw here that we didn't use for this side. So what I think I might do, just so that I never lose it, is I'll place it back in the other side in the heatsink. I'll do it up so that it's nice and tightly done up there, and then we just keep that there as a spare. But these are perfectly in alignment, exactly what we're looking to do there with those. Same over here with the tweeter. So now all we need to do is exactly the same thing to the other speaker, and then we are all but finished. Okay, so let's have a chat here about what we've actually pulled out of the Wilsons and what we're actually putting back in, just so that we can understand exactly what's happened here. So this is the mid-range section here, okay? So here are the Wilson mid-range resistors, the two of them, and you will see that they have a value of 9 ohms. So when you put these two resistors together like this in parallel, you essentially halve the number. So that gives you a resistance of 4.5 ohms. So what we've done here with the brand new Visray resistors is we have wired them in series, not in parallel. So in series, what happens is we actually add the values together. So we have a 2 ohm resistor here and a 2.5 ohm resistor here. So if we add those two numbers together, we get 4.5 ohms. So that is exactly what's happened here on the mid-range side. Now, on the tweeter side, here are the two Wilson tweeter resistors, and you will see that they say 5.1. So that's 5.1 ohms of resistance. So when they are put together in parallel, we halve that number. So we get near enough to 2.51, for instance. So what we've done here is we've replaced both of those with one 2.5 ohm resistor. And that's how we get to the values that we get to. That's how we've done this, so that we get as extremely close to what we had. We had a listen in the room, and the 0.1 that we essentially have here is neither here nor there. It's absolutely inaudible in any way, shape or form. So we simply went with one 2.5 ohm resistor for the tweeters, and that's where we got to what we got to. So I'll just wanted to explain that part of it to you, so that I can now go in and I'll install the second set of resistors into the other Wilson, and then we're just about all but done.